A woman's hand reached into the open casket and unpinned the silver star from the dress uniform. The velvet box snapped shut over it. A second hand smoothed the dead soldier's collar like nothing had happened. The organ kept playing. Nobody in the front row moved. The cousin let out a small sound and was hushed. The old man in the front pew did not turn. His knuckles tightened on the brass handle of an oak cane. That was the only thing about him that moved. The woman who took the medal walked back to her seat in matching black heels. She slid the velvet box into a leather purse. She crossed her ankles. Why would a family pry a decoration off a fallen soldier in front of half a town? The old man's name was Walter Briggs, and he was 74 years old. Stay with me on this one. Walter Briggs grew up on a hayfield 2 miles south of Buckhorn, Tennessee, and he stayed there. He came home from Vietnam in 1971 with a limp that took 6 months to walk off and a piece of shrapnel the size of a dime that the doctors left under his shoulder blade because moving it would have done more damage than leaving it. He never made a fuss about any of that. He drove a county road grader for 31 years. He married a quiet woman named Ruth in 1978. They had one daughter. Ruth died of cancer 12 years ago. After the funeral, Walt drove home, sat at the kitchen table, and made a list of what he had left in the world. The list had one name on it: Sarah Elizabeth Briggs. She was 11 the day her mother was diagnosed, and 12 the day they buried her. Walt raised her by himself from that point on. He packed her lunches in a tin pail. He braided her hair badly until she learned to do it herself. He sat in the bleachers at every softball game in a folding chair because his back didn't allow the metal benches anymore. He never once mentioned the war to her. She found out he had medals because she was helping him clean out a closet when she was 16, and a wooden case fell off the top shelf and opened on the floor. A Bronze Star, a Purple Heart, a Combat Infantryman badge. She picked them up one by one and put them back in the case and asked him about them. He said they were just metal. He said the men who deserved them were still over there. That was the only conversation they ever had about it. She enlisted 3 days after high school graduation. Walt drove her to the recruiter's office himself. He didn't try to talk her out of it. He didn't talk her into it either. He sat in the truck while she went inside, and when she came back out, she had a folder in her hand and a look on her face he hadn't seen since her mother was alive. She made sergeant by 23. She put herself through officer school after that. She made captain by 33. She earned the Silver Star at 34 for dragging 4 soldiers out of the back of a burning vehicle in a place called Helmand Province while she was on fire herself. The official write-up said she returned to the vehicle 3 separate times under direct fire. The unofficial version, which Walt heard from one of her sergeants at a barbecue 2 summers later, said she went back a 4th time looking for the driver who was already dead. The sergeant told Walt that story while Sarah was inside the house getting the potato salad out of the refrigerator. The sergeant told it quietly. The sergeant told it like a man who needed to say it to somebody. Walt listened all the way through and didn't interrupt and didn't say anything when the sergeant was done, except thank you. Then Sarah came back outside with the potato salad, and the sergeant cracked a joke about something else, and the moment was over. Walt never asked Sarah about that 4th trip back to the truck. Sarah never told him about it. They both knew the other one knew. They left it there. She married a man named Brett Crane the year before that deployment. Brett sold commercial real estate. His parents, Howard and Linda Crane, owned a chain of suburban realty offices outside Nashville. They thought their son had married down. They told him so at the rehearsal dinner. They sent Sarah a set of silver-plated picture frames as a wedding gift, with a note that suggested she might want to consider a job that didn't involve, quote, so much dirt, unquote. Brett didn't defend her. Sarah came home from the rehearsal dinner and told Walt about the note and laughed. Walt did not laugh. He folded a paper napkin into a perfect square and put it on the table and said one sentence. He said, "That man is not going to stand by you when it matters." Sarah told him he was being old-fashioned. 6 months later, when Sarah deployed, Brett filed for separation. 3 months after that, Sarah came home with the silver star and a burn scar that ran from her elbow to her wrist, and Brett told her through a lawyer that he wanted the divorce finalized before her next tour. The Cranes never sent a card. They did, however, send a bill for the silver-plated picture frames. Sarah died 3 weeks before the funeral on a county road outside Fort Campbell. A hit and run. The driver was never identified. She was 36 years old. Walt got the car